Today, December 2nd, 2018, I'm going to discuss Mother's program in Zimbabwe. You know, there's an echo on the over here. Mother's program in Zimbabwe and what it means. What is she teaching that we can all believe in? And I think that's really important. The goal of our church teaching is that everybody learns and understands. So Mother did an interfaith, True Mother, Mrs. Hakja Moon, we call True Mother, an Interfaith and Peace Blessing 2018 in South Africa. So actually, let's do a little sound check. John, you ready to check the sound? And I'm going to show her video from the weekly update. It takes about 30 seconds for it to warm up. Are you warming up? Oh, I know. I get it. I tested this and it did work.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's warming up. Okay, open. I tried to do this instead of doing it over the internet. I think this works better. But we'll see. There's the sound. Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it. Go.
Hey, Will, did you hear? Will was in Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I heard she blessed like a stadium full of people.
Okay.
Yeah, important enough to be in the weekly update. So, from what I can tell, your mother arrived in Zimbabwe on November 19th. There, she met with the Minister of Defense, who welcomed her on behalf of the Zimbabwean government. The next day, your mother visited the capital, Harare, where she met with the President of Zimbabwe at the Presidential Palace, which is pretty sweet. Then, on November 21st, she presided over a Hyojung Cosmic Blessing ceremony.
It's pretty amazing, right?
오늘 여기에 축복을 받게 되는 축복 가정들은 이 한많은 복귀 선지 역사에 하늘 부모님 하나님께서 흘리신 피와 땀과 눈물의 결실이 됩니다. 오늘 이 순간 얼마나 참고 기다려 오셨습니까? 이제 이곳을 시작으로 아프리카 전 대륙이 하나님을 중심한 신아프리카, 신짐바브웨가 되어서 하늘에는 기쁨과 영광을, 지상에는 자유, 평등, 평화, 행복한 축복 가정들이 사는 지상 천국을 건설하는데 앞장서 줄 것을 다시 한번 부탁하면서 이 모든 말씀 참 부모님의 이름으로 축원 선포하나이다. 천주 앞에 소원이 성립됐음을 선포합니다.
Then there was this big Peace and Family Festival. Your mother gave an amazing speech, but I'll let her take the cake.
과거나 오늘을 살고 있는 인류는 평화로운 하나의 세계를 원하고 있습니다. 그러나 우리가 살고 있는 이 세계는 종교 분쟁, 사상 분쟁, 문화 분쟁, 모든 면의 벽이 점점 더 들어가고 있습니다. 어떻게 하나의 세계를 이룰 수 있습니까?
How can we achieve a unified world?
노력이나 인간의 머리로는 해결할 수 합쳐져서 폭포를 이루고 대양으로 간다 했습니다. 모든 종교들이 가야 할 목적지는 대양입니다. 그 대양을 안내해주는 분이 참부모, 독생녀, 참 어머니입니다.
Then afterwards, the president even sent a message saying that the government would consider making November 21st the National Day of Peace and Family.
Amen.
This day they came to us for prevention, the National Day of Peace and Family.
It's pretty amazing, right? I'm going to stop there.
You've probably heard about the incredible educational experiences we offer.
We can hear about the incredible educational experiences at a different time. Mostly I wanted to hear about Mother, because Mother's speech is very clear, and true Father and Mother have been saying these things now for decades. And that idea is, how does everybody unite? And I read many Father speeches, and Siapa knows I woke up at 3:30 in the morning to write this, by the way, because the Holy Spirit won't let me rest, because we need to know, what's Mother talking about? She says, unless mankind understands the Creator and creation, the ideal of creation, will never make peace. Because people are just fighting over other kinds of things, about mineral rights or whatever in the world they're fighting over, right? So we say, in order for there to become world peace, there has to be a vision. Where's the vision? Without a proper vision, the people perish, right? So people have wrong visions about what life should be, or what we are, or what we should do, or how we should behave, because people have incorrect visions based on some small facet or aspect of the universe or their life. Then we don't have peace, right? So everywhere, wherever we went, all his 14 peace messages were about Godism. He invented a new word. Not Christianity, not religion. He called it Godism, based on the idea that the universe and God and creation are all the same thing, right? Godism equals familyism. For example, if we ask, where do Buddhists come from? Where do Buddhists come from, Andy?
The parents.
That's right, from Mother and Father Buddhists. Where do communists come from? Same, from Mother and Father communists. Everybody and everything comes from Mother and Father. So we say familyism, that's what Mother means by all the streams come to an ocean. The real ocean is that everybody is from a family, no matter who you are. Atheists come from a mother and father. Everybody comes from mothers and fathers. So Mother says that's a unifying fact in all of creation. No matter who you are or what you are, including Irish people in the back, they all come from a mother and father. Everybody does, right? So familyism, so Reverend Moon's last messages were familyism and Godism, that Godism and familyism are the same, and that these Godism and familyism come from the Creator. And the Creator brings what's called the ideal of creation, which is peace on earth and one family in the nature of God. One family of sons and daughters under one true parents of all mankind. That's really Mother's message. That's really the message of true parents, that we should become one family under God, right? So, this is just a study on children. This is from James Prescott. He's a founder of developmental biology program at the U.S. National Institutes of Health and Human Development. He conducted a survey of 49 traditional cultures. He found that some took pleasure in torturing, killing, and or mutilating their enemies, while others did not. What was the difference? Right? You've read about nations and groups of people. Some are tortured, some believe in science and religion. Right? The difference was how the culture raised their children. Right? This is the great ocean Mother's talking about. The great ocean is love in families. Loving children, loving husbands, loving wives. That's the great ocean that brings all people together. Those cultures and nations who raise their children with physical affection, holding, touching, and carrying, those cultures that lavished physical affection on their children produced happy, healthy adults that didn't torture, kill, or mutilate their neighbors and friends. Does that make sense? Then it said it doesn't matter what religion it was from. It didn't matter what countries, it didn't matter the education levels. It mattered the closeness of the affinity of the family. So that's what we're teaching. That's why Mother's going to Africa and going all over the world, or Nassau County, New York, all over the world, teaching familyism and Godism. That's why she says, when you hear her speech, she says, if people don't understand the Creator, you can't find real peace. So let me go to another one. This is a book that I really like a lot, and I suggest you all read. It's called Love and Survival, and by Dr. Dean Ornish, MD. And what he is, he's a cardiologist that studied why do some of his patients do well after cardiac operations and some don't do well. He did a scientific study. What's the difference? What's going on? Okay. He says this is what comes from his study. Our survival as a species and human beings and as individuals depends on the healing power of love, intimacy, and relationships. Now, he's an MD, he's a cardiologist. You would think he has said our survival depends on new technologies, or better scientific, or cleaner surgical tools, or something like that, right? He says, no. Those are important elements. But more important is love, intimacy, and relationships as individuals, as communities, as a country, as a culture, perhaps even as a human species, as a species on Earth. And I always want you to understand that when true parents go around teaching the world that true love is the answer to our problems, that it's 100% scientifically correct, right? And that I think all these other groups like Dr. Ornish and Dr. Prescott, they're all scientists, right? They're discovering the same science, the same root of human nature that Mother calls the ocean, right? So again, this is Love and Survival. It's called the scientific basis for the healing power of intimacy. It's a scientific basis. It's not just an opinion basis or an idea basis or even a religious basis. It's a scientific basis for the healing power of true love. Isn't that what we teach? Yes. Isn't that what Jesus taught? Isn't that what Reverend Mrs. Moon taught? The healing power of intimate love. Familyism, family values. And it's by a Dr. Dean Ornish. It's not by it's not by an advertising exec. It's by a Dr. Dean Ornish. And this is what he's discovered after striving to heal hundreds and thousands of people. So here's from a study that he did that's in his book, and you can read it. And I'm just going to give you a few parts of it. It goes like this. He calls it the labor of love. It's a pun, by the way. Anyhow, several studies have shown that social support can improve the outcome of pregnancy and childbirth. Again, this is science. This is measured science. It's not an opinion or an idea. He says this, in a review of over 144 studies, Dr. Hoffman and Hatch at Columbia University concluded that intimate social support from a partner or family member substantially improves fetal growth. So for women who are pregnant and there's somebody around who loves them and takes care of them, cares for them, cooks dinner for them, etc., then that child inside that mother's womb is going to grow better, healthier, stronger, and bigger, faster. In contrast, okay, all the studies show in contrast, stressful life events during pregnancy do not, and this is really important, people think that, do not increase the risk of premature birth when women feel loved and supported. If you don't feel loved and supported, yes, it can cause premature birth and other complications. As you'll see here, it goes like this. At the University of Arizona, researchers studied teenage Navajo mothers who were pregnant and unmarried. After giving birth, the mothers who had low to medium social support had 4 times the number of complications as the mothers who had high levels of social support. Isn't that interesting? What's the difference? Not medicine, they get the same medical care, they get the same doctors, but where they have friends calling up, neighbors, aunties, uncles, maybe a boyfriend, whatever, it comes and helps take care of the baby and take care of the mother, they have far less medical complications. So we can say clearly that loneliness and life without true love, without a family, without a husband, without parents, without a loving community, 4 times real physical medical complications arise simply based on aloneness and or loneliness. Isn't that interesting? So in Guatemala City, okay, this is a long time ago, but this is one of the studies. In Guatemala City, 2 studies revealed that the continuous presence of a supportive companion during labor and delivery shortened the duration of labor and reduced the need for cesarean section and other interventions. Is that interesting? Watch. In Guatemala City, it was routine for women to undergo labor alone, without family, friends, spouse, or even nurse support. This offered an opportunity for research. I'll explain later why they came to that conclusion. Anyhow, in one study, 40 women were randomly divided into 2 groups. One group was left alone. Women in the other group received constant emotional support from admission to delivery by a friendly companion to the woman who had not previously met, known as a doula. Is that right? So she's like a midwife. Her goal is to just be with the lady, just comfort her, rub her, give her water, just be there all the time. How are you? This is going to be great. Okay? And then the other group, then there was one more group, the duration of labor in women left alone was 19.3 hours, compared with only 8.7 hours for the women with a doula. When someone was nice to the women, taking care of them, comforting them, keeping them happy, smiling, labor on average was 8.7 hours. Wow. On women left in a room alone, what happened? Labor was approximately 19 hours, right? Yeah, 19.3 hours. It's amazing. This approach was replicated and studied in greater depth at the Cleveland Clinic. Approximately 400 healthy, pregnant women in labor were randomly selected to either a group that received the continued support of a doula or a group that was monitored with an inconspicuous observer. There was just somebody lurking in the room. Actually, not lurking, he was a monitor, simply making sure everything's okay, but wasn't friendly or emotional or warm. Right? In other words, they were given similar medical attention in the same hospital by the same doctors, but without the emotional support of the doula. Right? Another 200 women were assigned to a comparison group who received neither emotional support nor close monitoring. There's nobody in the room with them, right, except the doctor, maybe a nurse. Okay, here's what happened. Only 8% of those in the continuous emotional support group had cesarean sections, compared with 13% in the monitored group and 18% in the comparison group. Giant difference, right? Giant medical difference, giant danger to the health of the mother and the health of the baby, simply because there was no one there to love, comfort, and take care of the mother. So again, this is science. Of course, true parents teach this. True parents have always taught this. We know in our hearts that this is true, right? I don't know about the other men, but Siap and I practice the Lamaze method, where you rub her and do things like that, right? Even more striking, only 8% of those in the continuous emotional group needed epidural anesthesia, compared with 23% in the observed group and 55% in the comparison group. So when there was no one there to rub and take care and laugh and smile, bring water and do all those things, then 55% absolutely needed the epidural anesthesia. Doulas offering close emotional support reduced complication in childbirth from 300 to 600%, from 3 to 6 times more medical support, complications, cesareans, all those things affecting the child, simply because there was somebody there who was nice, sweet, warm, loving, offering emotional support. Not a doctor, not a surgeon, just emotional support. Isn't that interesting? Okay. I like this because I believe this is the nature of the Creator. The Creator created women, when they have babies, to have close emotional support. We are supposed to be born with God Himself present, loving you, telling you what a good daughter you were, with your husband, with your uncles, aunties, brothers and sisters, friends, neighbors, sisters, everybody taking care of the mother. And in that situation, babies would be born with very little need even for anesthesia. Right? That's our belief. We believe that comes from the Creator. That's what Mother's saying. This comes from the Creator. We're designed, our bodies are designed to receive love and to give love. And if we don't give love and receive love, then our bodies break down. That's amazing, isn't it? When you think about that, that's science saying what all the Christians, all the religious people have been saying throughout the years is 100% true. That from the beginning we were created to give love and receive love. Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. So in those places where there's no vision of love, that love is an important aspect of life, people perish. Far more complications, cesarean, premature births, and infant mortality, by the way. Right? So we say that love is real. Love is it's measurable, you can feel it, see it, touch it, taste it, and it's an important aspect of creation. It's the most important aspect of creation. Everybody got the same doctors, same medicines, all those same things, same hospital care, but the difference was, did they receive love or not? So we say love is real. We are not mechanical meat machines. Right? The materialist idea is we're simply hairless monkeys. If hairless monkeys can be born in a cage, then certainly humans can be too. By the way, that's what they thought all throughout the 50s. Love is life and death. Love brings life. Without it, causes death. Loneliness is stress. We all know loneliness is stress, right? I said before, we're all stressful because we're afraid of spiders or bumps in the night. But, and I explained this last week, right? When the bad guys capture the U.S. Navy SEALs or U.S. Marines, do they threaten them with a spider? I'm going to put a spider on you. You better tell us everything. No, they don't care. U.S. Navy don't care about spiders. They eat the spiders. They don't care. What breaks the toughest soldiers on earth? What breaks them? Loneliness. Loneliness. They put them in isolation. So we can clearly say friendship is strength. Friendship, love is health. And loneliness, separation, and isolation is stress and weakness. Right? So we say this is a real phenomenon of life. It's not something Christians made up or people made up or do-gooders made up. It's a real phenomenon. It's a biological mechanism of life that's called love. Right? Stress is unhealthy. Love, on the other hand, is joy, and love is health. How do we find health? By joy, love, friendship, intimacy, support, appreciation, all those things, right? So we might ask, how did Guatemala get that way? Original Indians weren't like that in Guatemala. The Indian community probably had all the grandmas, aunties, everybody surrounding the mother, everybody praying when the baby's going to be born, right? That's how indigenous people act. That's how Koreans act. That's how our ancestors acted, right? Here's what we think. Who thought childbirth should be a lonely process without love or support? Clearly, this happened, I know it happened in the 40s and 50s. When I went back to reconcile with my mother, she told me how I was born. She was alone. Wow. It was only her, and she remembers, well, my mother wouldn't cry out. She remembers hearing other women. My mother's too tough to cry out. But she remembers she was just alone, and she could hear other women crying in childbirth, and then I was born in that. And she said that's how the doctors were in those days. That's what they thought, right? Even biological science went through a period of what's called materialism. That is, they thought even modern material scientists thought humans were just little hairless monkeys. They thought love is something Christians made up or somebody made up, and it's not a real biological fact. That the only real facts were mechanical, materialistic, drugs, chemicals, knives, surgeons, etc., things like that, right? It's not true. It's not true. The other side is true, right? That it was okay to be left alone. That's how Guatemala got that way, and that's how many hospitals existed in the past. Now everybody knows that. Now they invite parents in, they invite grandparents in. They know clearly that this science is correct, right? They know clearly this science is correct, and if you go to visit your daughter or daughter-in-law or friend having a child, they want you to come in, say hello, be nice, be friendly, have a warm, wonderful atmosphere. Okay. In our church, right, childbirth is sacred, right? Childbirth is sacred in our church. In our church, our tradition is a minimum of three other ladies praying every minute the mother's in labor, right? And husbands are with them, friends, family, all our brothers and sisters, all our church members are talking to them, praying for them, calling them on the phone. True father, by the way, attended the births of his children with true mother. Did you know that? Not the first 3 or 4, because he was in America. He always traveling. But then I think after the 4th child, he realized how difficult it was for mother. He said from that moment he attended mother every birth of every child because he understood how difficult it was for her. So he went to be a companion to her. Let's see, plus we honor your birthday through acknowledgement every year publicly, right? In our church, Father has always acknowledged birthdays. And many times big celebrations. Actually, the last big celebration when True Mother was there, she asked, whose birthday is it today, right? Yeah. She asked, whose birthday is it today? And then 8 women came up and she all gave them a big prize. Right? Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. So to us, birth is sacred. It's the most important aspect of life that we believe in. So this is from Reverend Moon's speech called God's Ideal and the Kingdom of the Peaceful Ideal World. So Mother talks about peace, right? How do we get to world peace? We always believe it's through familyism. Because that's the one thing that connects all people. Everybody was born from a family. Everybody was. This is Father's words, right? True love gives joyfully. We find it in the joyful and loving heart of a mother who cradles her baby in her arms and nurses it at her breast, right? So Father, in one sentence, says this is divine love. This is how love is supposed to be. And how did you describe it? With a mother. Not with a father, right? Everybody thinks God's Father, Father God, Father Jesus, Father, Father, Father. But Reverend Moon says, wait a second. True love is described as a mother loving her baby at her breast. This is different, right? Father's different than all the other preachers and all of human history. Right? He says true love is sacrificial love. God created the universe out of just such love. Again, if we don't understand the vision of God's creation, how can we create a world of peace? True love is sacrificial love. God created the universe out of just such love, absolute, unique, unchanging, and eternal, investing everything without any expectation or condition of receiving something in return. Okay. God created the universe out of just such love. That's why love affects children. That's why love affects mothers in labor. That's why love affects your physical health today. Because the universe was created with love, and so love is an integral part of our biological, physical health, as well as our mental and emotional health. Because it's part of the universe. It's an essential part of creation. That's our vision. That's the vision of the Unification Church. True love is a wellspring of the universe. True love is a wellspring of the universe, not nuclear energy or chemical power. True love is a wellspring of the universe. Once we possess it, true love makes us the centers and owners of the universe. True love is God's essence and the manifestation of His will and power. When we are bound together in true love, we can be together forever, continually increasing in the joy of each other's company. Forever. Means in the kingdom of heaven, once our physical body goes away, we remain in love forever. The attraction of true love brings all things in the universe to our feet. Even God will come to dwell with us. So Reverend Moon says, true love gives joyfully. We find it in the joyful and loving heart of a mother who cradles her baby in her arms and nurses it at her breast. You see, Father is equating motherhood with divinity. For thousands and thousands of years, nobody thought that, right? I mean, maybe there's some cultures who had some idea of Isis or something like that, but mostly they didn't think that. Mostly they didn't understand motherhood, childbirth is sacred. Romans, anyway, I'm not going to talk about Romans, or Greeks, right? They would put their kids on a rock if they didn't die, good kid, right? Otherwise, Reverend Moon, true father is equating mother's love to God's love, which we in the Unification Church can accept and regard, right? That's why we think childbirth is sacred. That's also why we think sexuality is sacred. That's why we think it's sacred, right? True father makes breastfeeding sacred. How many women are embarrassed about breastfeeding, right? Does it make anybody cringe? In the normal world, I see articles on it all the time. We don't, and Koreans don't. When I first went to Korea, There'd be like in the airport, there'd be like women, you know, baby's hungry, boing, better eat here, right? There was no shame. There was absolutely no shame. Nobody, you know, got, oh my gosh, that's dirty. It's not dirty. It's sacred, right? Or offensive. Koreans just, of course, a mother feeds her baby in public. That's what divine love looks like. That's how the West should become, I think, honestly speaking. It's a sacred act of true love. True parents are preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, but they're doing it in an interfaith setting. For example, here's the words of Jesus, the little children of Jesus, Matthew 19:13. Then people brought little children to Jesus for him to place his hands on them and pray for them, but the disciples rebuked them. Nevertheless, what did Jesus say? Jesus said, let the little children come to me, do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. When he had placed his hands on them, he went from there, right? So he loved little kids. He says, listen to me. In my idea, in Christianity, in God's creation, the Creator believes little children are what the kingdom of heaven is made out of. They automatically own the kingdom of heaven. It's automatic. This is God's love. This is true love here, right? So that's our belief as well, isn't it? And where do you get children from? We went over that before. True parents are preaching the gospel of Jesus. Some Pharisees came to him to test him. They asked, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any and every reason? Jesus answered, he replied, that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female and said, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Right? Two becoming one flesh is 23 chromosomes from the man and 23 chromosomes from the woman, from the father and mother, and then you get a 46 chromosome human being. Isn't that right? Right? Half from man, half from woman. You become one flesh in your children. One flesh. Your children are one flesh of both of you, right? Your children sometimes look like the mom. There's dominant genes and recessive genes, but we're not going to explain that today. But sometimes you look like your mom. Some kids look more like your mom. Some kids look more like your father, right? Because it's 23 and 23. That's exactly what biology says. This is exact biology, right? Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man separate. This should be the vision of world peace that the world learns and the world ascribes to. If the world did this, then the world would change to be a peaceful world. That's what Father thinks salvation is. If we can teach familyism and teach Godism, and by the way, so many people want to get married and believe in this, they just don't know how to do it. Yeah. They just don't know the mechanics of marriage and family and loyalty and lifelong love and commitment, right? They just don't understand it. So we say true parents are preaching the blessing of marriage because children are sacred, because motherhood is sacred. Jesus, true parents, and we preach sexual fidelity. If the world understood that, the world would change to a peaceful world overnight. No pre- or post-marital sexual infidelity. Right? Don't we believe that strongly? And of course we teach that because that's what protects the children. That's what protects children, allows them to possess the kingdom of heaven and true love. Reverend Moon says, God himself has characteristics of masculinity and femininity, or positivity and negativity. Human beings who were created as a substantial object of God were created as man and woman. Not things, man and woman. When man and woman marry, they become substantial plus and minus representing God. So the image of God isn't just a man and isn't just a woman. It's a married man and woman. Right? From the beginning of creation, that was the goal of creation. If people don't see the vision, it's not going to be possible for world peace to come about. Right? It is God's will that when we marry, we completely unite horizontally, centering on God's vertical love. The owner of love is God, centering on love, and through love, God and humankind become one. This is because both God and human beings absolutely need love. Then what kind of love does God need? God needs absolute love. What about you? Do you want to receive part-time love from your husband or wife? A little bit of love? Or absolute love? Right? Father says it's the same with you and me. Just as God needs absolute, unique, unchanging, eternal love, we also need absolute, unique, unchanging, and eternal love. It seems that we all resemble God. Same with God. Thus, in the East, there is a saying that parents and children form one body. Further, they see a husband and wife and brother and sister forming one body. What is the basis for that traditional wisdom? The relationship between God and human beings is a parent-child relationship. Thus, God and man must become one, centering on true love, centering on familyism. That's what Godism is. So we say Godism equals familyism and is salvation. So here's mother, right? Here's mother, and here's the president of Zimbabwe. Right? Do you guys know what Zimbabwe used to be, Rhodesia? Yeah. I'm going to read this to you because you might be wondering, why is mother meeting with the president of Rhodesia, who is an evil terrorist country? I'll read this to you because I thought I better look this up just to make it clear. Now, when it was Rhodesia under Mugabe, Mugabe was president from 1980 to 2017, to last year. Horrible tyrant. And during that time, the Rhodesian government, pardon me?
Zimbabwe.
When Mugabe was there, it was Rhodesia. I'm talking about timetables. They changed it to Zimbabwe, right? They changed it to Zimbabwe recently. And they changed it because they got rid of Mugabe. So anyway, so what happened was they were taking all the farms from white farmers and giving it to African farmers. The trouble was it caused a terrible famine, recession, wrecked all the farms, and so eventually they got rid of Mugabe, and now a new president is in charge. So I'll read this to you. This is Basil Nyabadza from Zimbabwe's Agriculture and Rural and Development Authority. Says Zimbabwean farmers should return to home soil. So he's calling them back. The government is now offering 99-year leases to white farmers, a deal previously reserved for black Zimbabweans. Is that important? That's why mother can meet with him, because a new president is saying white people should come back. We're not going to kill you. Zimbabwe used to be called Rhodesia. Then the resignation of President Robert Mugabe last November and the swearing in of his successor, Emerson Mnangagwa, has delivered significant change. And actually, by the way, this is hopeful for the rest of Africa, also the country of South Africa. Government officials now admit the campaign of farm invasions that began in 2000 was a mistake. Clearly, the formulas deployed then left a lot of bad feeling, and more importantly, the intellectual property left our borders, said Mr. Nyabadza. Right? So they understood. Kicking all the white people and white farmers, they lost technology, they lost money, they lost manpower, they lost know-how, and the farms, instead of becoming an exporting nation, had to become an importing nation for food. So realizing the mistake, there was a military coup. Mugabe didn't just resign, he was kicked out. And this new president is sworn in. Thousands of white farmers were forced off the land during the invasion. Several farmers and farm workers were killed. Many others were injured. The Zimbabwean government promised the program would redistribute farming land to Zimbabweans in need. But many farms are taken by politicians and members of the ZANU-PF ruling party, this Communist Party, by the way. Right? Now farmers who lost everything are being asked to take the latest announcement in good faith. For some former landholders, that is too much to ask. They will never return. However, others are prepared to give it a try, right? So it's possible. So my mother said, ideally, this is the hope of creating a heavenly Africa. But there has to be peace and there has to be give and take action. Mr. Nyabadza says, we are now in a new dispensation and the challenge is now. We must rebuild our economy. In so doing, we need each other. So we are reaching out. So this, to me, this is hope. It's hopeful, and that's why mother could visit this country, because they're trying to put away the terrorist past and create a new future of harmony between Africans and Anglo-Africans, right? They're all still Africans. They're all born there. So here's mother. And here she is with her African archangel escort, right? That's us. And here she is with her Korean escorts, and she's holy watering them, baptizing them. And there's many brothers and sisters. Now, interesting to me is I don't know who organized this. However, I would bow down to them in respect and admiration. Whoever they are, I don't know, it's a Tom Ward, UPF, I assume those guys. But there wasn't a list of who actually organized this. But it's pretty amazing to me. right? So Mother says, the blessed families who will receive the blessing here today are the fruits of heavenly parents, God's blood, sweat, and tears during a sorrowful history of the providence of restoration. We all know, right? I've been reading Mother, the book, My Beloved.
Yes.
Should have been, in 7 years after 1945, the Korean Christians who became dominant in the South, right? Was it Sigmund Rhee, Christian Presbyterian, fathers Christian Presbyterian, all part of the independence movement, should have accepted true Father, received him, and then Father would have guided them to create a unified Korea, right? Just like Zimbabweans are trying to unify, he would have tried to unify with the North. But it didn't happen. And instead we went through a wilderness course of immense suffering, loneliness, persecution. We all know, many of us were there, right? But none of us, believe me, none of us know the suffering of True Mother. In the book, it says very clearly, he's writing about True Mother. He says, do you know True Mother became pregnant 18 times? Out of that 18 times, 14 children were born. Of those 14 children, 13 survived adolescence. Of those, I think the numbers are, sorry, I had the numbers in my head very clearly. 14 survived to adulthood. And of those till now, there's still only, I think, 12 left, right? So, because so many of her children died. But Mother never gave up the faith. Mother never cursed God. Believe me, if your child dies, and my child was sick, we had miscarriages, it hurts you terribly. But Mother never lost that, right? She remained faithful. So when this says the sorrowful history, the providence of restoration, no one knows it more clearly than True Mother. Nobody knows it more clearly than True Mother, right? Oh heaven, how long have you waited and endured for this moment? And she means true parents as well as God. So what's the moment? That Mother, as the only begotten daughter of God, could be blessing all these people. Could never happen before in human history, and now it's taking place. Women were never raised up, right? There's no female popes. There's no female head of the Episcopalian Church. There's no female head of the Methodists. There is anywhere. Nowhere is it happening. Only in the Unification Church is there a True Mother who's going out to bless all of the world. Right? Only in the Unification Church is there an only begotten daughter of God. We should understand how valuable and important that is, how different it is, how groundbreaking it is that we're raising women up to be equal to any man anywhere, any religious leader anywhere. Now, starting from this place, the entire continent of Africa will become heavenly Africa, centered on God, and here will be heavenly Zimbabwe, right? Shin Zimbabwe's, Shin Africa, Mother said. I ask once again that you lead the way in establishing heaven on earth, where blessed families will live with freedom, equality, peace, and happiness on earth, and joy and glory in heaven. Right? I pray and proclaim all of this in the name of true parents. Jew. That's her True Mother. What a woman, right? So she's preaching Godism is familyism. Familyism is from the Creator and is the ideal of creation. Godism and familyism is salvation. People want, what's salvation? Salvation is true love in a family. True love in a united family and extended family. That's why we teach tribalism. 430 blessed couples in your tribe, and you'll never be lonely or alone, right? Everyone can support each other. That's why we're building our families, our church, our tribes, ACLC, WFWP, UPF, etc. Amen? Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. I appreciate your listening to me.